Hi everyone, welcome back to Geeks on Dice. We have Geeks Talk today because it is during the middle of the week, and apparently I schedule all the Geeks Talk during the middle of the week. You probably recognize this face if you've ever been on the channel before. It's Connor McNeill of Versatile. Why don't you tell them about your channel real quick, Connor? What's going on over there?
Well, I run the channel Versatile Diecaster. In the coming weeks, there's going to be a lot of game videos going up of playtests of the setting I'm creating, and you guys are going to get a look at that when those videos get put up. I know Zach is going to be in one of the games at least.
At least one.
That he's in. I decide all my players at random, so don't worry. There's no favoritism.
Excited about that.
But we're not here to talk about that today.
No, not entirely. We got a couple things to talk about, actually. As it turns out, I started writing notes, and it kept growing. So, we have been talking about this since I started talking about doing the Geeks Talk. And you have been wanting to talk about Elder Elementals. So, what are they? Where can you find them?
All right, so Elder Elementals are like normal elementals. Raise it up a bar, raise it up another bar, and then you're almost there. I have always been very biased towards fire, so Phoenix is, of course, my favorite. Even though it's probably the weakest of the four. Like, mechanics-wise. It's amazing, like, narrative-wise.
Right. I've always been that way since my first Pokemon game, too. Always lean towards fire.
Phoenix has a lot of old history. It's got a lot of pop culture attached to it. And honestly, it's really fun to try and throw this at your players and just see how they handle it. Especially since when it dies, it just comes back after X amount of time.
It's always fun.
One that I think, well, two that I think have a lot of connotations along with them are the Leviathan and the Zaratan. I don't know about anyone else, but for the Zaratan, I got heavy World Tortoise vibes. Like the tortoise that carries the 4 elements that support the world disc on its back.
Yeah.
This thing is just a moving earthquake. If you insert this thing into a campaign, it is going to be the main problem of that campaign. I don't care if there's Vecna. I don't care if there are storm giants attacking the world. I don't care if Tiamat's coming back. Earthquakes ravaging everywhere is going to be the main problem.
Yeah, be an issue.
What makes it even better is it can just eat the earth and throw it at people. One very fun way I could see this going down with players is take this monster, put it in a canyon, have fun with rock slides from the top and boulders spewing from the front.
It's a lot of dexterity checks.
Yeah.
Only the monk survived.
The Leviathan, that name goes all the way back to, like, the Bible. Ignore that noise. It's unimportant. The Leviathan is a water creature that can sink boats effortlessly. If you're ever doing a naval campaign, just have a random chance of this thing showing up. It will scare the players to high heavens.
Yeah, you know, killer whales, Kraken, Leviathan. It just goes together.
Yeah. And the best part about the Leviathan is, while it's underwater, where it is safest, it could just, like, randomly make a tidal wave.
Just out of nowhere.
That's how you just open up the fight. Just, oh yeah, there's a, like, 40-foot wave coming at the ship. What do you do?
And one thing I would do if I'm using the Leviathan in a naval-based game like that is just have the random NPCs tells stories about the Leviathan sinking other ships. Not the Kraken, but the Leviathan. Because there's always going to be that one NPC that means you mean the Kraken. It's got tentacles. It's a giant octopus squid thing. It's gonna sink a ship. Yeah, you can kill those.
And then the sailor telling the story goes, no, this was a serpent made of the sea. It doesn't care what you try to do. It will end you. Now, out of the four of these, the one that has the least story attached to it is the Elder Tempest. However, there is some inspiration drawn from the Feathered Serpent, Quetzalcoatl, or Kukulkan. And basically, it, like the other Elder Elementals, can create a natural disaster, in this one's case, a thunderstorm. If you're ever flying, don't fly after it. That is a bad decision. With the thunderstorm, it can make a lightning bolt strike wherever it wants, including you. So, a neat way to put this into a game or have a game centered around it is there's this town, and it's just having lightning storms bombard it endlessly without rain falling. Just endless lightning. It's the party's job to figure out what's going on with these clouds that are making everything go crazy. Eventually, through some shenanigans, they figure out, oh, it's an Elder Tempest somewhere up there. And then they got to figure out how to get to it, which should always be entertaining for at least the players.
Especially in those campaigns where you don't have the flying ships.
Especially in those. But even in that, the Elder Tempest can be pretty hard to get to.
I mean, if you have a high-level wizard with the fly spell, I guess they could do it. But that's only for, what, 10 minutes, I think it is?
Yeah, and if it's as high as it can go, you're probably not getting there in 10 minutes.
Right.
So you better have a lot of spells saved up for this encounter. Because it's definitely not coming down to you.
Right, especially
in the sky.
If you do manage to get up there, you know, it's so easy to just send them hurling back down to the ground.
This is true, and I believe that is why it is the, like, supposedly highest difficulty out of all four of them. It's the challenge of getting to it and then staying at it.
Right. And defeating it and surviving and
coming back down safely. Because you're basically fighting a tempest.
a literal storm.
Yes. So I have a feeling that with all of these amazing Elder Elementals, we're going to need the normal Elementals for context.
Yes. So, for those of you that for some reason don't have the books or just don't know, maybe you're probably newer to the hobby if you're on my channel, to be honest. There's elementals in almost every monster book, and they're all a little bit different. There's the standard ones in the monster manual. There's basically the elementals on steroids in Willow's Guide to Monsters. And then Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes has, I forget exactly what they're called, but I know they're basically armored elementals.
It has the Elder Elementals and the Myrmidons.
That's right.
And Myrmidons are elementals in armor and using weapons, which I find to be a bit weird because it's a lot harder to hit something made of air than something made of air that has metal on it.
Very true.
And this is true for all of them except for Earth, which is why all of them, including Earth, have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from not magic things.
So if you want to know what those look like, Myrmidons. Oh, look, it's actually showing up pretty clearly today on my camera.
Woo!
So I can't tell which is which from here. But I believe it is air, earth, fire, and water.
Yep, alphabetical order.
Yeah, makes sense. I don't know which order it's going to show up on the camera. I should probably figure that out one day.
Now, all of these are technically neutral, but all of them could be easily converted over to be quote unquote corrupted in some form or another, with either the air having a miasma in it, the water being poisoned, the fire using rancid wood, or the earth being desecrated. Like some form of malediction has seeped itself into the elements that make up these elementals. And the Myrmidons specifically, I think, are called to perform a certain service, and depending on what that service is, can be spun to be slightly evil, even though they're just following orders.
Roommates walk in. So, now, like any other sentient being, they have their own goals and ambitions. Well, Myrmidons, I could be argued, are not technically sentient, don't have their own ambitions. They have their job they're trying to do, and that's about it. But referring to the elder elementals, they would have more of their own ambitions and ideas of what they want to do. So, in order to do that, would you say they were able to? I mean, if the DM wanted to play it loosey goosey, would let, say, a warlock be aligned to one of them, or possibly a cleric who was more affiliated with nature than any particular deity?
Oh, I definitely would. I would definitely allow people to make pacts with them. They're like at the power level of ancient dragons, and ancient dragons are able to give out epic boons, so why aren't they allowed to patron things?
Right, things that have been had stories about told about them since stories have been told.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I would do it, but well, let's go for example.
Dependent on what elemental they try to make a pact with, I'd
Right,
reskin probably either the Great Old One or the Fiend packs.
right,
Possibly also Celestial, dependent on what kind of flavor they're going for.
right. And I guess it depends on what alignment the character is trying to go with too.
Or maybe even go with like way back in the playtest of Cryfoth, the Primordial Pact.
Yeah, I think that'd probably be the closest to it. I think the primordial path is still in the book. I can look.
It's
That would
it
take
is
time.
not, unfortunately.
Oh,
Yeah, I was looking at it a couple days ago with some dudes, and I was kind of upset. It's whatever though.
it happens. A lot of
Uh,
things came and went in that playtest.
but the
Playtest.
Myrmidons, the Elder Elementals, and regular Elementals are not all the Elementals that exist. There are also
So,
genies.
yep. Which are the
Genies,
parents of Ganassi.
yes. The genies are probably the most interesting because they're the ones that are closest to human processes of thought. Like the Ifriti, they are slavers. They are cruel, but they are measured. They know how far they can go. They know what wars to fight, what people they can and can't handle. The Marid are crafty. They are wise. They grant wishes, but only to those that have braved through many trials and tribulations. The Tao, they're like the Efriti, they are slavers. They are reserved. They protect what is theirs, and they are greedy of the treasures of the earth, such as gems and precious metals. The Djinni, they are the closest to your classical genies, giving out wishes, being mostly benevolent, and just seeking to protect and enhance their way of life, and occasionally reaching out to enhance others. And each of them are also associated with a specific element. Efreeti are fire, The Djinni are air, the Marid are water, and the Dao are earth.
If you guys couldn't tell, Connor has done a lot of research on the elementals and their ever-branching family.
I am a big fan of them. And my favorite kind of elemental, for no reason other than I once had as a familiar and it was amazing, are the Mephits.
Methods. Methods are pretty awesome.
These little dudes make a perfect encounter for a very low level party, especially the smoke method, because it can blind people. And it is really hard to get over disadvantage.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
And even when it dies, it leaves smoke where it is for about a minute. Which means even after they kill it, it's like, did it blind us again? What's going on here?
Gives you that extra element of, did we actually kill it, or are we just lost?
Did we get accidentally transported to Barovia?
Yeah. Everything leads to Barovia. We all know that.
And if you're ever looking for a cool way to incorporate a player who took Primordial as a language, these guys are probably the way to go. Because you can make them sassy, you can make them complete dicks, you can make them overconfident, you can just make them whatever you want. Their personalities are probably as varied as player characters.
I think a pretty good prime example of an accurate method playing. I don't know anybody from there, but I watched the series Trapped in the Birdcage. The DM, Holly Conrad's husband, Ross, plays an ooze method for a while until they trap him in a jar. It's this whole thing. And if you watch that, it's pretty accurate to how I imagine methods behaving to people.
And the one cool thing about Mephis is, well, there's a lot of cool things. Often they're combinations of two separate elements, like the mud, magma, smoke, and steam methods. You can see all of these as combinations of fire, earth, water, air in some form or another. Magma being fire, earth, mud being water, earth, smoke, um, fire and air, steam being fire and water. You just combine all the different elements in different ways, and you can probably come up with your own methods other than the 6 that are in the book.
Which would be pretty easy, actually, because there are still more combinations there.
Definitely.
I mean, you could have like basically a little dust devil, which is a method that's just a combination of earth and air,
That you could.
which could actually be interesting. Coming soon to a Barovia near you.
And there's also some character options tied to elementals. Like Zach said earlier, there's the Genasi race, which are half genies, basically. And they have some of their power transferred over to them from their genie parent. And they come in the
Which book they come in?
4 that are common in fantasy: earth, fire, water, air. And they are all definitely suited for different roles. The main one I would say works insanely well for them, like across the board, would be the Way of the Four Elements monk. It just fits together thematically, and with the bump to wisdom they get, it fits mechanically as well.
You know, if you're trying to power game.
If you're trying to power game, air is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Air Ganassi monks in some games I played in, some Adventurers Guild type games, and they are surprisingly very, very effective. Well, not so surprisingly, but they're very effective. Usually the DPS unit too. So
And you can play Ganassi in a lot of different ways, like very proud of your genie heritage and showing off whenever you can, or very secretive and slightly ashamed of it and trying to keep those weird fin ears under your hood.
or your occasional burp or belch of fire and, you know, the things they do. So, with all this love for the elementals, Connor, how come I haven't seen you play any Ganassi?
Well,
We've been in a few games together now.
we have been in quite a few games together. While elementals are certainly one of my many loves when it comes to creature types, I just find that other races do what the Ganassi are trying to do just a little bit better. And I think that fits pretty well considering that their half from the genie isn't suited towards the material plane. It's suited towards whatever their elemental plane is.
Right? They don't always quite fit in, which could be fun to roleplay, but I get it. Voices talking in from the great beyond, making announcements and such.
Yeah, they're super late on that announcement. It was supposed to happen right before we started.
I also came in after it and there was no security.
And like, you can look at giants as sort of pseudo elementals if you so wish to, with the fire, storm, ice, and hill sort of being interconnected with the elementals, and the dragons being somewhat connected to them as well. I'm working on some stuff for the playtest, but I know it existed in previous editions, specifically the brown, red dragon turtle and the wyvern. All of these are like super suited towards a very specific thing where it's super associated with one of the elements. Like the brown dragon has a sandstorm breath and burrows like a leviathan would swim in the sea.
That's really cool. See, they don't have that in 5th edition.
Not yet, which is why I'm making one.
It's very much needed. Like land sharks, we all want to use them, but we need to know the stats on them.
Yeah. If I ever wanted to use a land shark, I think my go-to would be a bullet.
That'd be a good basis, yeah. I'm definitely when I finally play that Cryfoth game, I'm gonna be putting land sharks in there. It's just too perfect.
Land sharks are gonna be a pretty good thing as soon as they arrive. And it seems that people like always love the elementals, even when their setting is focused on something completely different. Like in the Cryforth play test that we talked about earlier, there was Circle of the Elements Druid and the Primordial Pact Warlock. The main draw of Path Circle of the Elements was you had this little mini elemental with you that you could like shift and customize however you please because it's nature. It always adapts. It is trying to suit itself best for the situation. I know when I played one, I had a small little ice golem walking next to me. I gave it immunity to ice to cold damage, and I let it fling its frost arms forward and come back to it because of the ranged attacks and such. And that doesn't even scratch the surface about different ways you can make it to suit literally any kind of elemental you want it to be. And Cryfoth also had another elemental-based race in it, and still does have that, the Incarnum, with the Stormborn, Cinderborn, and Dustborn variants, all coming from different elementals.
Which are interesting. I was talking a little bit about them with the other Connor.
I'm a big fan of them. Whenever I play Cryfoth, it's always a toss-up between them and Tieflings. And whether or not we encounter demons is normally the breaking point.
Yeah, tieflings kind of need demons to happen quite often, actually. 29. Because I have permission to show this off as much as I want. Once again, I will show these guys right here. See, we have the...
Born on top and Cinderborn on the bottom.
Yep. And then, of course, Dustborn. Man, big, hulking, just a mass. I equivalent them to somewhere between Warforged and Goliaths, made out of the dirt and sticks of the ground.
Yeah, and all of these races have like their certain special thing that they can do. Like the Stormborn can fly for a certain amount of time. The Cinderborn provides light to themselves and others. The Dustborn has an ability where it can like protect itself by calling more earth to it and just bouncing a weapon off of itself. I think.
I can double check.
And I've done so much research in this because, again, with the playtesting stuff, I made a class a long time ago that made its way into the Draconica playtest called Elementalist. And you're tuned to one of the 4 elements, and that determines a majority of what your features are, including some proficiencies, in a similar vein to how the cleric gets certain proficiencies from certain domains.
So, just real quick, I'm guessing you're referring to the stone armor ability that comes with being a Dustborn. It is duty resilient yet encumbering form. You are ill-suited for wearing armor, but your natural composition provides ample protection and gives you a base AC of 17. Your dexterity modifier does not affect this number. You gain no benefit from wearing armor, but if you are using a shield, you can apply the shield's bonus as normal.
Yes,
So no matter what class you play, if you are Dustborn, your AC starts at 17, which is impressive. Especially if you were, I don't know, a wizard or a sorcerer or one of these normally frail classes.
And it is made all the more impressive by the fact that that specific feature is only matched by one other race in the entirety of D&D that I know of, and that is a literal turtle.
Turtles. I love turtles. Little known facts about me, actually, while we're on turtles real quick. I am Native American. Only an 1/8, though. I'm not even very much Native American, but it's what shows the most. And my family's tribe is the Ottawa branch of the Chippewa Indians, which is the turtle tribe. So I've always had an affiliation towards turtles, and so is my daughter and my dad and basically my whole family. So I love turtles. And I still haven't played them yet for basically the same reason you don't play Ganassi.
And all of the elementals we've mentioned, we still haven't mentioned all of them.
Right.
There are a ton more, including one that was made specifically to be a middle finger to Elemental Lord of Air. And those are gargoyles.
Yes.
Made of Earth by the Elemental Lord of Earth and given the ability to fly just to make one guy super annoyed. I admire that level of petty.
That's pretty awesome. So, if you love Elemental so much, I'm guessing you enjoy Princess of the Apocalypse.
I do, yes. I am trying to find an excuse to run that book. But
Well, see,
such a thing hasn't come up yet.
I mean, there's people who need to play in a game. You want to run the game. I'm just saying.
I'm also insanely busy. But don't worry about that. It's fine.
It's fine. Who needs sleep? College and D&D, right? That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to mention
D&D, marching band, observation hours. It's whatever.
is real observation colors.
Oh, there's something I had to say, but I forgot it.
And if you want to include like small elementals as like minions to your big bad because they're like affiliated with one or multiple of the elements, you can go ham with it. I would even say like include the Triton, throw in Merfolk, put in the Azers, which are just, they might as well be a player race at this point. Remind me of that later, Zach.
I will.
Bring in everything that is even loosely associated with an element, and you can put that forward and justify it by saying, yeah, in this world, they're from the elemental plane of such and such. And even like the elemental planes have cross sections where they intersect, like the plane of ice, the plane of slime, the plane of ash, the plane of dust. Like,
There is a plane of everything, by the way. It is not just the 4 elements.
yes.
Anyone thought otherwise.
Like,
And it
combine
makes sense.
and mishmash any kind of thing that you can think of, and there you can make a plane out of it. And just send the players there, and they will have either a fun time or a very challenging time trying to traverse it.
Because you could even take more than just 2. As in, you could take well, I guess earth and water would just be mud. But I was trying to overcomplicate it by saying like earth and air and water, and I'm like, wait, just earth and water. Never mind. I'll shut up.
Combine
yeah.
water, earth, and fire, and you basically have the Hawaiian Islands. Like,
Essentially,
yeah. For inspiration for all of these different combinations of elements that you can make that don't that don't make up the material plane where all 4 come together in a sort of harmony.
It'd be a paradise and technically a site of constant chaos as well, because if it meets in a harmony, each element in its own way is trying to overpower the other and keep spreading as everything does. So there's also, in case one of us forget, there is the, I guess loosely you could call it a form of elemental, but more of a man's attempt to control the elements would be the golems.
Yes. In my mind, the golems are always like, they have something in them of an elemental. Like the iron golem, I think that there's a fire elemental in it that would have helped forge the armor that is created for it. And that's why it has the fire absorption ability. For clay, you would use a water elemental to give it life and bring it forth, because just regular old ceramic things don't come to life and try to beat you over the head with themselves. The flesh golem, an air elemental to help it gain breath back into its lungs. A stone golem, self-explanatory.
And note to self, make creatures out of ceramic for D&D later. Just like, because Connor said
are so wide and versatile that you can use them for so many different things and just combine all sorts of stuff into them and have it make sense if you give it like 10 minutes of thought.
Yeah. And that's a wonderful thing, as any DM knows, is being able to mix, match, and customize things for your campaign, especially if you're running like a homebrew world, and you can just mix, match, and throw anything in it whenever you want, because no one can tell you can't. There's no rules to that, which is a lot of fun. That's why I mostly run homebrew campaigns.
Huh, what do you know? Turns out the flexibility of just doing whatever you want with this like set of tools that was provided is amazing to do for both you and for your players. And a lot of it, like even this thing, a beholder, there can be justification for it to be a like elemental if you try hard enough.
All right, so you got to walk me through that one.
Well, for all of its different rays, you could have it ray. It shoots a beam of heat at you so intense that it literally burns you to ash instantly. For its blinding ray, a flash of light that is super bright. For its paralyzing, it freezes you in place. Like, you can just come up with all of these different ways and things that everything gets mashed together. Like, there's just a whole bunch of stuff that you can throw together into a different grab bag that you can just pull from and say, hey, elements.
Which is always fun. And that's fun both for the DM and it can be fun also for the players, especially if it's something that even like me, who has all the books for a certain edition, if you're playing with a DM and all of a sudden they throw something at you that isn't in any of the books and you're trying to pinpoint it, but it sounds vaguely familiar, it gives you that big bit of intrigue, and then you begin looking into all those creatures and you realize they made it up, but you get some more background with more monsters, and it's kind of how I built my entire encyclopedia of monsters.
It's definitely a fun thing to just homebrew stuff, which I guess is kind of what elementals are for.
Yeah.
It's like you see a dude literally made of fire walking towards you. What do? That's just a reskinned fire elemental.
And what do you do if you're like in a place like Sigil or Waterdeep or Neverwinter or something, and this dude made of fire is walking past and no one else is reacting, but your first instinct as an adventurer is to attack and kill it because obviously it's evil, it's made of fire. Which provides
brings up all sorts of interesting social interactions, like, no, there are in fact beings that are like this that are completely fine and normal. You're just like being dumb.
right. That's one thing I love about the books is because you can look through the core books and every creature has some sort of alignment, even if it's true neutral. There's some sort of alignment, and you can just say, "Nah, I don't feel like that's evil here," or "I feel like that the blink dogs would be attacking because you're intruding on Fey territory. They're lawful good, but they're lawful obedient to their archfey," or stuff like that.
Yeah,
I
which,
love
like I said earlier, Myrmidons are like, they're supposedly neutral, but again, depending on the orders that they're given, and even elementals, if they're summoned by a powerful enough wizard, the orders that they're given, they might shift up or down that axis of lawful chaos and good and evil.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about elementals, which I know you're excited to do, and that's what we came here to do. But let's talk a little bit more about Draconica.
All right.
I hope I said that right.
You did, yeah. So, Draconica is a setting that I'm working on that is basically the humanoid races have recently broken free from dragon overlords making them their slaves. And there's a whole bunch of new subclasses in it that I made. There's some new homebrew rules for special dragons that are in the latest version of it. There's new races in it that are maybe based off of Eberron things, in addition to my own understanding of alchemy and other pseudosciences. And those pseudosciences are a little less pseudo in Draconica, like alchemy. I remember one of the races is a homunculus, which is a combination of a human and some other kind of beast. They put them together in an alchemic circle, and bada bing, bada boom, you got a homunculus.
Yeah, you can't have a homunculus without alchemy in some form or another.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite races is the Morpher race,
Yes.
which is
They
essentially
are a race of shapeshifters that gain the appearance and some qualities of whoever they're mimicking. Like, for example, if they saw this giant berserker raging around, they could shift to look like him, but they wouldn't necessarily have the giant raging muscle and the combat prowess of that berserker.
I love the idea of the Morpher when they're first learning how to shapeshift, be able to take the appearance of whatever they're trying to impersonate, but they're the exact same size. Or vice versa.
Yeah.
Just for the first few times to give it that extra role play LOLs.
Mm-hmm. You can play as a Minotaur, and I gave it a little bit different flavor than classical 5e. I made it so that they're drawn in two separate directions, both to the Fey and to the Infernal, because of their Minotaur head and horns being drawn towards Baphomet, but because of their chest down being more similar to what you would find in the Feywild and a Satyr, you get sort of a torn between two worlds thing, which is why I gave them common and a choice between either Sylvan or Infernal, which I don't think has been a thing done with the race before.
Language options? I don't think so. Especially those two.
For the automaton, they're like customizable robots. They always get more constitution. You can go into one of three things. One is better armored, one is more capable of spell casting, and another is more capable of sneaking. However, certain potions don't work on you, like any of them.
Certain ones, like all of them.
Because you're an artificial being, you don't really have the digestive system to process it. But to contrast that, if someone does a DC 10 smithing tools check on you, you regain a hit die's worth of hit points.
It's good to stay with gnomes.
Yes. And also with dwarves, because they can just naturally have that proficiency.
Right.
And don't worry, in Draconica, there haven't been any mass extinctions. You can all use the races in the player's handbook that you want. I'm not sure if I made the wording in it anything other than that, so I'll just say that for right now. As I said earlier, the Elementalist is a class that's in it. You get attuned to one of the four elements, and that determines a lot of what the character does. Like, there's a feature where you can teleport to a vessel of your chosen element, like a torch or a jar filled with water.
Be good
And a
for
lot of subclasses in Draconica are dragon themed. Like, the poster child of this is the Worm Slayer oath for paladins. One of your channel divinities is you can detect a dragon within a mile.
as opposed to a fiend, celestial, or undead. Correct?
The Fiend, Celestial, or Undead is only within 60 feet. The specific dragon thing is sort of pulling from the primeval awareness of the ranger, because one of the tenets of the Worm Slayer is to go out and slay dragons. Like, if you know of a dragon that you do not serve, you go out and you have to try and slay it. If there's a chance you can do it.
Right.
Another one of these, well, I should probably mention the one race that was made specifically with dragons in mind, and that is the enhanced. They were
Yep.
made to hunt dragons. They have pluses to the stats that dragons target with their breath weapons. They can grapple things that are bigger than them, as in things that are bigger than them don't automatically succeed on grapple checks. And they can immediately recognize a dragon that is polymorphed or disguised in some other way. Like, say a guy walks into a tavern with silver hair and a sword at his hip, and it's a polymorphed silver dragon. And Enhanced is going to see that and is going to try and go after the guy, despite the fact that no one else in the tavern is going to believe, okay, yeah, that's definitely a silver dragon.
They often believed to be murderers.
Often believed to be murderers, psychopaths, and other non-fun things. Another race is the half-lycan, which I'm especially proud of.
I was just going to bring it up because I'm looking at it right now.
And I discovered a class made by another person in the D&D community that pairs really well with it, actually. Especially the leatherback. Matthew Mercer's Blood Hunter, specifically the Order of the Lycan.
Yes.
Very well mechanically and thematically. It is one. Well, I should probably say what the Half-Lycan's main thing is. You can bonus action shift to take on your lesser form of lycanthropy that you got from your lycanthrope parent.
Would that be the hybrid form?
I'm talking about the half-lycan traits right now.
Oh, okay. I'm reading through it real quick right now.
Each one gets something different. There are, I think, 4 sub-races, and each one gets proficiency in something different, except for Leatherback, which I think if you already have proficiency in heavy armor, you get Heavy Armor Master.
Yeah.
You know, to be more proficient in the thing you're supposed to be proficient in. The whole shtick of the Half-Lycan is shift, and you get to do X. The Leatherbacks get a bonus to their AC. The Blood Trackers get advantage on tracking. The Swift Paws get +10 to movement. The can't remember the claw one name right now, but it's
Razor Claw.
The Razor Claws get a natural weapon they can use. And all of these things just come together to try and make a race that feels like it has a lesser form of lycanthropy and can just go into it without bad effects happening to them. Whereas Matthew Mercer's thing, it pairs really well with it because the flavor is you have the curse of lycanthropy, you're trying to deal with it as best you can, and you're using it to morph yourself into something. Which I think fits the Half-Lycan really well for obvious reasons.
It just goes together naturally. Okay.
Have I missed any races?
No, you got all the races. I just exited out of the playtest material.
Like I said, there's a ton of subclasses. We'll be here literally all night if I try to give details on every single one.
That will be our second video with Versatile Diecasters talking about the new subclasses.
Let's see. One special thing about this world is it is a continent on the skeleton of a dead dragon god, which is pretty sweet. it gives me a reason to have the land suffused with all sorts of weird magic stuff, including, like we talked about for 45 minutes, the elementals and such. Like I said, I'm coming up with my own versions of dragons. So far, I've come up with hybrid dragons, brown dragons, and aquatic dragons.
Let's talk about the hybrid dragons real quick. That sounds nifty.
All right, so the gist of it is you take one dragon, you take another one, you put them together, you take the best of what they have to offer, and you split the breath weapon damage in half between the two damage types.
Okay, so like you take a red dragon, blue dragon, you make a purple dragon.
And it would be,
Steam breath.
well, blue dragons breathe lightning.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You're right.
So it would be breathing a fireball and a lightning bolt at you at once.
By the by, that was my my go-to combo, and I forgot the game. Never mind.
And one thing that everyone seems to forget about dragons, they all have different movement methods. Like black dragons can swim, blue dragons can burrow, red dragons can climb.
Yeah, I've never really thought about that.
Well, yeah, why would you? They can fly.
Right. Exactly. Kind of takes away.
Some really cool ways I figured out how dragons hide out is like using those specific movement methods where flying isn't an option, where the people would assume, oh, obviously that's where they go. It's really high up and hard to get to for anyone that doesn't fly. And so they send a group of flying adventurers up there to try and take out the dragon. Meanwhile, there's all of these black dragons and blue dragons hiding out under the surface of the continent.
Literally in the bones of the continent.
Yeah. One specific subclass that I want to mention, and it's going to be one of the only ones, is the alchemist wizard. Basically, all of the weird alchemist stuff that you read about in books and whatever else they thought they could do, this wizard can do it. Like, even better than the transmutation wizard could. But, like, it's not specifically towards, like, convert this into this. It's like, it's not an exact science with this one, but they can do a whole bunch more things.
Okay.
Like, for example, create a homunculus.
Right. Something no other wizard could do.
And I've got a slew of new backgrounds that go with it as well to like help sell that it's a slightly more scientifically advanced version of like a high fantasy world.
Which, I swear to God, we're gonna have to make another video because I don't want these to be much more than an hour. So we'll probably end up having to do a whole other video on all that stuff, or people can just subscribe to Connor's channel and get the playtest information.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a thing like that soon.
So one thing, a little more for me than anybody, is it's not Draconica and it's not Elementals, but you obviously play our beloved Stony Tark in Curse on Dice.
That I do.
As your DM, I have been wondering. I kind of trying to figure this out on my own, but I figured it'd be fun to talk about here during this video is what are his like personal ambitions, and should he not die before escaping Barovia, what do you think he would want to do when or if you guys do end up getting out?
I think if he gets out, he's just gonna try and get back to where he was before, like try to get back to his friends. Like he saw he was needed somewhere else, so he went there. But when he's not needed, he's gonna go back to where he wants to be. He just wants to help people, but people think that he's useless. You know, like Millie.
I don't know if Millie finds him useless. I don't know. I'll have to talk to Mikhail. So like when he does get back, does he have any like personal goals? Or I know because it was the rumors game, I know he was a guild member, but does he have any like personal goals? What is Stony about when he's not being a adventurer risking his life time and time again?
He's all about inventing things. Like he just likes to tinker around and build and just make stuff. I think his main goal would be to remember for like that one invention that makes everyone's lives easier.
It certainly makes things more interesting. That's for sure. I do enjoy his the twist you've made on the wizard, whereas instead of it just being this arcane magic, it's his, again, it's still a wizard's devotion. It's what he does, but he creates things that can help him do his spells.
Yeah. Like
that really
his
cool
signature
flavor.
gauntlet.
Yeah.
Can't have Stony without the gauntlet. Doesn't make much sense.
It'd be very upsetting if that gauntlet disappeared in a game soon to come.
I mean, I made him a transmutation wizard specifically because I wanted him to be like an alchemist in his past life, someone who like made things into other things and used that to help advance his inventions and such.
Yeah, I like him. Stony is definitely one of my favorite characters that I've got to Dungeon Master for.
Stony likes you too.
I'm glad. I was really worried when the whole party was dying to spiders.
I was worried too.
Had Mikhail not dropped out of the call, I don't know what I would have done, because it was looking pretty dire.
Yeah.
For those of you that didn't catch it, Millie was down to 4 HP, and everybody else was out.
Stony was literally dragged away.
All of the players were talking to me about their backup character.
I had a weird, interesting one, but now I get to be in another game.
That's another great thing about being a dungeon master too, is you can be in any game. I think I did that once with my albino kobold.
Oh, Creep?
Creep, yes. I did love Creep.
I remember Creep.
It is Piggy.
You guys are wondering who we're talking about. Rumors of the Southern Isles. He's the guy that we literally carried into a shack.
Also, so you think you can roleplay?
Yes, I played him.
I made him. Drake Warren's channel. I forget the name of the channel, but you guys have to check that out too. Shout out to Drake Warren. Okay, I think that's all I got here, Connor.
I think that's all I got too. Also, guys, if you're ever trying to make an elemental your slave, just get a normal elemental. Remember, they don't need armor. Myrmidons are kind of dumb.
A little bit. But in the meantime, if you made it this far and you want to see more of these, like, comment, subscribe, all those things that other YouTubers say that I haven't said in the past, I don't know, 15 videos I've made. And always remember to check out Connor's channel as well. Versatile Diecaster. And as always, last thing, be sure to check out, if you haven't already, the Absolute Tabletop official RPG group on Facebook. An awesome little community of a bunch of people just talking about not just D&D, any tabletop things. I think one of the things going around right now is the Lamentations of a Flame Princess, right? I think I've seen that.
Lamentations of the Flame Princess and the newest adventure kit that Abtab is putting out.
Yeah. And Abtab puts out some great stuff. So I'm going to be backing that and getting that as soon as I have money. Because why wouldn't I?
That's a good point.
All right. Until next time. Bye, everybody.
See.